Imagine a time when you could order your dream house directly from a catalog, much like we order furniture from IKEA today. Well, in the early 20th century, this was not only possible, but incredibly popular thanks to Sears Roebuck Company's innovative Modern Homes program. These houses, complete with all the material needed for assembly, were mailed across the country, allowing families to construct their homes just as easily as you might assemble a flat-packed furniture kit. So, where did things go wrong? How could such a practical solution just suddenly fall apart, and what remains of these iconic Sears Catalog homes today? Stay tuned to find out as we explore the rise and fall of Sears Catalog Homes. I'm your host, Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. Today we're going to talk about some of America's most unusual homes, which makes this a perfect moment to share something pretty disturbing that I've recently learned about. Did you know that with just one forged document, someone could legally become the owner of your home? This scam, known as the house stealing scam, happens more often than you think. In other words, you could lose your home without even realizing it in just a matter of days. Fortunately, there's a way to protect yourself: Home Title Lock, the sponsor of this video. Let me elaborate. Title fraud occurs when criminals illegally transfer the title of your property into their name using forged documents filed with the county recorder's office. Although the system is supposed to be secure, its vulnerabilities allow these scams to go unnoticed. Once they obtain the title, they can take out loans against your home or even sell it to others, and you won't know until it's too late. That's where Home Title Lock comes in, protecting your home's title with its exclusive triple lock protection. This service includes 24/7 monitoring, urgent alerts if any activity is detected, and a US-based team of legal experts to help you restore your property if you become a victim of fraud, avoiding lengthy and costly processes. So don't wait to become a victim. Sign up today at hometitlelock.com/itshistory or click the link in the description to get 30 days of free protection and a comprehensive title history report to ensure that you're not already a victim. Again, sign up today at hometitlelock.com/itshistory and use code ITSHISTORY for 30 days of free protection and a comprehensive title history report. At the end of the day, our home is much more than bricks and walls. It's where we share our unique moments with our families and always find peace. Protecting it means safeguarding everything we value most. Thank you, Home Title Lock, for sponsoring this video. And now, back to our story. To kick things off today, let's have a look at the history of catalog and mail order shipping, which, believe it or not, began centuries ago. According to sources, the practice is rooted in the 1400s, when early shopping catalogs, such as the Venetian Book Catalog, came into circulation. And as the centuries passed, this trend caught on. The William Lucas Seed Catalog came into circulation in 1667, and then if we fast forward to 1861, the Royal Welsh Warehouse was the first company to focus almost exclusively on mail orders by selling their flannels in Wales. Now, this was possible thanks to the UK's expanding network of rails and flourishing mail system. In other words, it was the perfect environment for a mail-based sales business, and it didn't end there. You see, this all paralleled the United States, with businesses such as Montgomery Ward in Chicago in 1876. And on both sides of the pond, people loved it. You see, the prices were found to be lower as sellers could advertise their products directly in the catalogs rather than having to worry about paying a middleman to distribute or sell their products themselves. By allowing consumers to buy goods and services through the mail, the groundwork was laid for what eventually would become the Sears business that we remember today. Indeed, Sears is a familiar name for almost all of you. It's been a key player in American commerce for a very long time, but its story starts back in 1863, when Richard Warren Sears was born in Stewartville, Minnesota. Being a very wealthy family, the Sears name was already established by the time the Sears Company founder came into the world. The family moved into Spring Valley soon after Sears' birth, and although he was a silver spoon kid by all counts, his life was not without struggle. For example, James, his father, lost the family fortune to a $15,000 stock bet. And as if that was not enough, James died very shortly after, leaving an impoverished family behind. At this point, Richard took it upon himself to become a telegrapher for the railroad in North Redwood, Minnesota. And surprisingly, it's here that the first traces of the Sears company began to take hold. While Richard Sears worked in North Redwood, he purchased a shipment of watches that could not be shipped, and then proceeded to sell them back to his fellow railroad men at a profit. Seeing an opportunity, by 1886, he created his first mail-order business in Minnesota, explicitly catering to watch sales. The company was known as R.W. Sears Watch Company, the first of Richard Sears' ventures that ultimately would lead to our understanding of the company today. So, 1886 was generally a very important year for Sears, for other reasons as well, key of which was his meeting with Elva Curtis Roebuck, a watch repairman who would lead the way to Sears' greater success. And so it was. In 1887, Roebuck and Sears packed up their bags and moved to Chicago, where the first Sears mail-order catalog would be published. The first issue focused on luxury, pairing their watches with their diamonds. But in 1889, Sears sold the primitive Sears business for $100,000 and moved again to Iowa to make some cash off banking, before ultimately moving back to Minnesota to craft yet another mail-order business with the same vision. At this point, Roebuck became a partner of Sears, and by 1893, they were back in Chicago and back in action. This company began investigating new horizons beyond the watches and jewelry that they were familiar with, advertising products such as bicycles, shoes, and sewing machines in their catalog. Within a year, Sears had expanded their catalog from 196 pages in 1893 to 507 pages in 1894. To their grand success, the sales increased alongside the page count. Then, towards the end of the 19th century, Roebuck left the company due to health issues, even though his name remained in the company title for many years to follow. This vacant piece of the company was then handed over to Aaron Nussbaum, who welcomed his brother-in-law, Julius Rosenwald, who together, in 1895, procured Roebuck's half of the company for $75,000. Around the same time, Sears, Roebuck & Company became reincorporated in the state of Illinois. Rosenwald proved to be an incredibly valuable asset for the company, serving as a source of administration and a motivator for introducing new products. These included things like drugs, furniture, hardware, and numerous commodities desired by farm households. And these moves came right in time, as they incited much-needed growth following the financial panic of 1893. Then, a few years later, Aaron sold off his piece of the company to Rosenwald and Sears for $1.3 million in 1903. This is when the Sears, Roebuck & Company was officially founded in New York, effectively replacing the previous company. Today, Sears cites their true beginnings as that 1893 incorporation in Chicago, but the 1906 change is the official commencement date for the company that we know today. Furthermore, it was this entity that offered the very first IPO of a major American retailer in American history. And although that might not sound too interesting to you, it needs to be emphasized here that this moment was a marker for a new age of American consumerism, the one that you and I are sickly a part of. An age that by now some might say has gone too far. Anyhow, in 1906, Sears began constructing its complex of operation labs, offices, and administrative buildings on the west side of Chicago, all starting with the catalog plant and that fantastic Sears merchandise building. Both of these structures not only still stand, but they're registered on the National Register of Historic Places. This entire complex would be the Sears headquarters until 1973, when the Sears Tower was built. Anyhow, Rosenwald continued to be successful, pushing the company's sales up to $50 million in 1907 as vice president. And considering that, Richard Sears himself felt very comfortable handing over the presidency and chairman of the board position to him in 1908. This all happened after some health-related issues prevented Sears from being as active as he previously was. However, before Sears retired from his company, he authorized the beginning of one of the most intriguing catalog endeavors in history. You guessed it, the Sears Modern Home. From 1908 to 1942, Sears sold their modern homes across North America through their renowned catalogs. By delivering the building materials and instructions, future residents of Sears homes could assemble their houses independently or with the assistance of friends. And it should be mentioned that this type of build-it-yourself kit house was not the first in American history. Rather, that title goes to the Aladdin Company from Bay City, Michigan, as they had offered a number of pre-cut pieces through their catalog back in 1906. Yet, in that same year, Sears already had the idea, as manager Frank W. Kushel is said to have recommended the concept of selling entire houses through the mail to Richard Sears himself, perhaps inspired by Kushel. And because Sears had a large number of unsold building materials lying around, the idea sounded not only feasible but efficient. By 1908, Sears Modern Homes were officially introduced. The Book of Modern Homes and Building Plans was the first Sears catalog for houses, released back in 1908. This issue offered 44 different house models for purchase, with prices ranging from $360 to $2,890, which was a bargain, even when converted for today's money, which would be approximately $12,208 up to $93,003. Well, Sears had other competitors selling houses, such as the aforementioned Aladdin Company. They had a great advantage in the business since they had already been established through their widespread catalogs for many years. And the process was very straightforward. People could order Sears homes by meeting and coordinating a plan with an associate at a local sales office. By 1930, there were 48 offices around the United States. Then, to supply the large quantity of products necessary to assemble these kits, a lumber mill was eventually established in Cairo, Illinois, which you might remember from a different video. But they also used outside contractors in the production of these kits. Companies such as Norwood Sasha and Door Company, based out of Norwood, Ohio, and a lumber yard in Port Newark, New Jersey. Now, pre-cut lumber only became a feature after its introduction in 1916. Before that time, customers had to cut the delivered lumber themselves. This created an important distinction in the house classification. Before 1916, houses without pre-cut lumber were called catalog houses. Well, those with pre-cut lumber were called kit houses. Sears said that the introduction of pre-cut lumber reduced the time needed to build these houses by as much as 40%. The supplies for these homes would be shipped through railroad boxcars and trucks to sites where the people would assemble them, with the number of parts necessary to build a house often exceeding 30,000. Sometimes including options as advanced as plumbing or HVAC systems. Due to the roughly 370 different homes offered, the interiors and exteriors varied greatly. One example of a Sears model was the Crescent, which included 4 bedrooms, a living room, a bathroom, a kitchen, and a dining room. Some models offered distinct external features, such as the angled roof of the Dover model. Others appeared to be rather typical, such as the Lewiston offering. Still, different models could tend to look quite similar to each other, which was definitely the case with the Haven, Cornell, and Davenport. These Sears homes were relatively cheap compared to other construction procedures, largely because Sears material was mass-produced at factories. Even though there were many different models, they all used the same material. Hence, it was a great reliable product that many people could afford. And they did for decades, with the unique Sears Modern Homes catalog releasing its final issue in 1940. However, it's important to note that this doesn't mean that the construction of these type of homes ceased altogether. Local advertisements for them were still posted, offering local delivery. Thus, Sears' modern homes were purchased and built all the way up until 1942. So where did things go wrong? Well, during the Great Depression, mail-order houses began to fall after their many years of countrywide success. In 1930, 48 Sears sales offices were open, but by 1939, there were only 19 left. Also, in 1934, Sears had to liquidate around $11 million of their mortgages due to the pressures of the Great Depression. This, combined with material shortages, is why Sears stopped circulating modern home catalogs in 1940. As standardized housing developments surged after World War II, other mail-order housing companies faced even more intricate challenges than they did during the Great Depression. Ultimately, rendering this type of business obsolete. Some companies lasted longer than others. However, the Aladdin Company, which introduced the first mail-order catalog homes, finally stopped their manufacturing in 1982. And at that, even though the business had fallen apart, the built Sears Modern Homes themselves were left behind. More than 70,000 Sears Modern Homes were sold in the time that the catalog was circulated. They were found across North America, reaching all the way up until Canada in some areas. The majority of these homes were built in the Midwest or eastern half of the United States, leaving a rather extensive past to unravel. But there's a problem for us. Apparently, Sears kept no comprehensive record of their locations, hence only traces are left behind. With that in mind, a database was created at SearsHouses.com, where a group of researchers has made it their mission in life to rediscover these American relics. Some of which, I might add, might be right beside you without you even knowing. With over 370 designs, 34 years of operation history, and a slew of architecture to sift through, the research required to maintain a database of these homes is no easy task, and is compounded by the inconvenient fact that people who choose to assemble homes themselves with relatives or neighbors aren't necessarily focused on leaving these type of details behind. Though, if someone suspects that their home might be a Sears Modern home, a researcher can come over and verify that fact through various methods. All means of verification require a primary source. These include a mortgage from Sears, blueprints from Sears, framing lumber with stamps that correlate to those of Sears models, newspaper advertisements, or notices that label a home as a Sears model, among other necessary documentation. In other instances, researchers can only be partially sure that a house belonged to this catalog. Such instances include a house that matches a Sears model externally and has specific hardware only sold by Sears throughout their home. Researchers are said to be meticulous and avoid making assumptions about the prospect's origins. Even if a house is similar or identical to other Sears homes, it doesn't mean it's authentic, since around the peak of their popularity, many companies, contractors, and modelers copied elements of these catalog houses. And to make the situation even more complicated is the fact that, due to privacy concerns, researchers aren't even allowed to show their list to the public. Still, some of the available data lets us know which areas of America have the highest concentration of these structures. Cincinnati, Ohio, and its surrounding suburbs are said to have over 700 of these houses documented. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is said to have over 1,000 when counting its surrounding suburbs. Other places, such as Wood River, Illinois, have a mere 23, whereas Yonkers, New York has a proper 111. So they're still very much being rediscovered, and that database is growing every year. Who knows? Maybe you could be living in one of them right now. I will leave it there for today, but if you enjoyed this video, please consider supporting the channel by clicking subscribe. Otherwise, until next time, I'm Ryan Socash, signing off.